Well, former longtime Toronto Maple Leafs player Borje Salming announcing yesterday he's been diagnosed with ALS.
So for more on what that means, we're joined this morning by Tammy Moore, the CEO of the ALS Society of Canada. Tammy, thanks for joining us. Borje Salming, in a statement yesterday saying this was a diagnosis that shocked his family, and they're also sort of, asking for privacy as they continue to work through this. What does a diagnosis of having ALS really mean to someone, Tammy?
Yeah. Good morning, and thank you for asking these questions. It's really important. A diagnosis of ALS is a terminal diagnosis at this time, although we are getting to a place of being able to have therapies. So for Borje and his family, they're going to be dealing with the realities that their lives are likely changed significantly from what they had anticipated.
Can you talk a bit about some of the challenges of a diagnosis like this and the support that's available to people who find out they have it?
Yeah, so ALS is a diagnosis where it's progressive paralysis, essentially. And people will manifest the first symptoms in many different ways. For my cousin, for example, he started dropping his hockey stick. So he had limb onset. People can start tripping. There are a number of ways that it can manifest. And so what is available in terms of support is helping to understand what that can look like. ALS Canada provides community support where we actually go into people's homes and help them to understand what resources are available. But as their symptom onset and the progressive paralysis changes, so are their needs. So things like they're going to go from needing a wheelchair to needing a walker to a wheelchair to a power tilt wheelchair. And as they lose their mobility, they're going to need further things, hospital beds and ceiling lifts, things so that they're able to stay at home safely and have their caregiver help to take care of them as well.
Now, Tammy, we know Borje Salming was really in peak condition. He was extremely serious and dedicated to sort of making sure that as he was a professional athlete, he was in absolutely top-notch condition. And he's continued that, post-retirement here. So when you talk about therapies, what can it do? And does he have any advantage going in as he is in sort of like the condition he is as a former professional athlete?
Well, with therapies that we're seeing now that we didn't have, even 8 years ago when the Ice Bucket Challenge happened, we're seeing that they can slow progression of the disease. And so when somebody has symptom onset, it means that they will have longer with those abilities that they have. In terms of peak condition, yes, the longer that we can stay healthy, the better. And that will be an advantage as he's going through this.
In his statement yesterday, as Nick mentioned, Borje talked about, the shock factor of finding out he had ALS and needing time really to process this moment. I wonder, Tammy, if you can speak about sort of the mental challenges, not just the physical changes somebody would notice, but how difficult this would be for your mind.
Well, you can appreciate that if you have been in peak condition, if you have been very physical, if you have had your health, and suddenly you're dealing with something where you didn't have any determination that you received this diagnosis, and now you're facing the reality of the loss of your physical abilities, that is going to weigh heavily on what it is that you're facing and how you're thinking about what's to come.
A really important conversation. Tammy Moore, CEO of the ALS Society of Canada, thanks so much for your time this morning. We appreciate this.